Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by A Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with A Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. Okay, so with all this, personalities and communication, one thing that we've been really focused on lately internally is just how to communicate with one another, within our team, within the three of us, our partnership with our lender partners, our brokers. We had this conversation with you, I believe it was at Dustin Woodhouse's event where you mentioned you are now a DISC educator.
Yeah.
And so we thought we could flip the script, so to speak, and kind of get into your experience here and what you're doing with it and how, we can benefit from it and have a little fun today.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was running our call centers, I would listen to some of our calls with our clients. And of course, they all go as well as they can go. But you would hear somebody get on the phone with a homeowner and they would just spew a bunch of information, potentially not listen or listen to any cues. And so I brought somebody in to do a DISC assessment with everybody. So if anybody doesn't know what a DISC assessment is, effectively an assessment that you can take, which will analyze your communication and your behavioral style. And it helps you understand how you communicate. But the thing I love most about it is how other people perceive you. So if you actually went in our old system, if you went into any of your clients' deals and you were in the call center, you could actually see their DISC profile because it was required that the person that talked to them will put that in and be like, oh, that person's a D. So the next person that would get on the phone would be like, okay, well, I'm not going to ask them about their weekend. I'm just going to get down to facts, right? Yeah. So that ended up really expanding to when I took over MERIX sales. I asked this question all the time to brokers, how many people started 2026 and was like, my goal is to figure out how I can integrate AI more into the experience with my clients so I can do things faster. Everybody. A lot, yeah. But who sat and said, my goal this year is to figure out how I can better connect with my clients so they'll come back to me and be loyal? Nobody, because they're like, I'm really good at this. I'm in sales. I can talk to everybody. We don't spend enough time being intentional in our communication with people because we just assume that everybody hears us as we're speaking. So I was hiring people to come and speak to brokers quite often, and it was pretty expensive. And then in 2025, I said, I'm going to take the course and take my exam and teach this myself. And so that's what I did. If
anyone hasn't done the DISC assessment or, other versions of it, it's incredible how accurate it is. And when you're reading it, when you're reading your own report, holy shit, that is bang on. Have you had that experience with, yourself? Have you had that experience just on your own DISC assessment and how has that played out within your team and how accurate it is?
So I've been doing these assessments. I'm kind of an assessment geek, actually. If you call me and say, I got a personality assessment, I'll do it. So it's interesting because you are impacted by your life experiences also. So when you take a DISC assessment, some people will say, oh my gosh, this is so accurate. A lot of people will say, this is so accurate, but if I took this 10 years ago, I bet you it would have been different because life experiences happen. I'm an I, which is an influencer. I'm very energetic. I want people to like me. I want to be your friend, but I generally don't like conflict and being direct. And so somebody that would be very direct to me, I would analyze it more. That's kind of my DISC style. But I've also reported to a lot of CEOs. And so I learned to be direct because that's how you learn throughout your career to deal with people that are of different communication styles. So the DISC style is a really great framework, but it's also, you're not boxed in a category. It doesn't get me out of bed in the morning to go look at spreadsheets, but I work in sales and that's what I had to do. So I had to flex myself to learn that. So
I think it's kind of interesting on, I've been introduced to this stuff over the years. One of my really good friends, this is what he did for a living. It wasn't DISC, it was another provider, but he would work with, mega companies and go and present to their sales force. And often the person that was taking the assessment, they'd want to be if I was an I, I'd really want to be a D. And that you're kind of playing to what you want to be when really the benefit of it is figuring out what you are and then how to react differently to kind of get to the people that you want to get involved with. So I've kind of dove deep into this kind of stuff myself. And I think it's very powerful. And I think as we move forward, this type of stuff and understanding people and understanding personality types, I think that's what's going to separate us from the average kind of conversation you're going to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason why I asked is like, what's your experience of other people taking this and how do they feel about it? Because my experience was like, wow, it's so accurate. And the people I've worked with that have done this have had the same.
Yeah.
But like you actually mentioned to read a book Surrounded by Idiots.
Yeah.
And I read it after we had this conversation. And like I learned in that book that some people take it really poorly, especially from the educator that's like doing these for them and like, hey, you're like this, and this, and it's like some of it's negative.
Yeah.
And they don't want to admit it or what have you. Like, have you seen that?
Yeah. So usually when I do a teaching class, so sometimes we can do it for 2 hours, we can do it for 8 hours. And so one of the things that I get people to do is to read their assessment, and I'll say, I want you to check off things that are like you, and I want you to check off one thing that is not like you. And so people will be like, I can take criticism. This is like, and I'll say, okay, but now let's think about you as a 16-year-old. How good were you at taking criticism then? Now I get you're cool and you're like so, strong and big, and they go, oh yeah, I guess so. So sometimes when you take assessments like this, what it's doing is getting down to the crux of what, we're all really great at being these people that is not natural to us, but any type of these assessments is about what's your natural state. So there's 4 DISC styles. So there's D, I, S, C. And D is somebody that's very direct. They're very interested in what is the end goal. So a D is somebody who, if you were a homeowner or a client, would get on the phone and you'd be like, all right, how long is this going to take me? At the end, what's it going to cost me? And oftentimes somebody might go, oh my gosh, that client, he's like really abrupt. But it's just that he's working on the end goal. He just wants to get to the end state of things. He's less interested in the process, more about the end. So I don't care how you got there, just get there so we can focus on it. That would be a D. So an I is somebody who is, we would call as an influencer. So an I is somebody who could go into a networking party and would thrive on meeting new people. Yeah, an I is somebody who would be interested to hear about the story rather than the numbers. So how did you get there and what happened to the people and like what got to the versus, the numbers and the facts. So, and then you have an S. So what's interesting is 2 of my sales leaders that run the East and the West are an S, and I'm an I. An S is somebody who is supportive. So an S is somebody who, if you guys are all out for dinner and there's a big group and everybody's been talking, they might say, hey, you, Jason, you haven't talked yet. What do you think about that? They're interested in harmony and support with the team. So oftentimes an S is a really great leader because they're making sure the team's supported and everything's cohesive. That's something that's really big for S's. And then a C, so this is where we really see our underwriters, our Cs. These Cs are really driven by process. In fact, the C is probably more interested on how you got there than what the actual end goal is. So a C is extremely protective of their work. So if you guys all collaborated in something, and I know Jason, you are a part of C, you would double check their work to make sure their work was accurate because it is your pride to make sure that everything is accurate. So Cs are really great for accuracy as well. So you could be a mix of them, right? So you don't have to be one style. Most people are mixes of styles. And like I said, sometimes people change. So those are all the really great positive things about the DISC styles.
Yeah, it's really cool. We first got into this probably 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, when we were coaching with a guy named Tim Brahim out of the States.
Okay.
And he got us and all of our employees. We started with ourselves to do the DISC assessment, and then we did them for our employees as well. And it was so enlightening to see. Like, we literally just had awesome people that became good friends of ours, but they were never that great in their role. And we tried to continuously coach them, and they just couldn't figure out the underwriting piece or the doc piece or the payroll piece. And then once we moved them around based on the coach's feedback, these people, their careers just took off.
Because you're now understanding where they're coming from, right? It's not about, I'm going to fit you in a box. It's like, oh, you're coming from here. Oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah, and how to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, between, the 3 of us at the time, there was communication challenges downward. We figured out who could handle a certain partner to work with and place them accordingly. And it changed our business for sure.
Yeah, like pairing them with the right people, whether it was a partner, like this is when we were brokering. So like the lead broker, it was the right personality for that. Personality is the underwriter, the document fulfillment person. But also like the doc fulfillment person was a better salesperson. So like getting that, trajectory in the right, sense right as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then like realizing like the salesperson is a way better underwriter.
Yeah.
And just wants to sit behind the desk and crunch the numbers and, make all that magic puzzle happen, right? So
all our BDMs have taken it, and some of our underwriting centers, we take it together with them because sales and operations can kind of clash sometimes. So it's really great when you have, we've done it in brokers' offices where you have brokers, but then you have the underwriters, and then they go, okay, I get you so much better now. Now I understand where you're coming from, right?
I'm curious, so like you've been doing this now with other people like us that are your accounts, and have you seen any broker implement this and with success, and how did they go about that?
So I actually was working with a broker who we did this training, and then she had a bit of an aha moment because she had a client. She was a first-time home buyer. She was working with her for a year. She was very concerned about the process. She always wanted to know, okay, what's the next step? What's going to happen? When do I need to prepare for this? Will this go really fast? So she said, even just buying the house, you could see it took her a while to get there. So finally, the house was closing in 3 weeks. They had a file complete with her lender. But another lender came and had a whisper special, and that whisper special would have given the client 20 basis points lower of a rate. So the broker jumped on it. She's like, I'm going to be a hero. She calls the client. She goes, just so you know, we're going to go and move you to this other lender because they're going to give you this better rate. It's going to save you this much money. I'm going to have to get a couple more pieces of paper, but don't worry, we're going to save you money. And the client called her the next day and said she was going with her credit union. And so she's like, I got to ask why. And she goes, it just freaked me out. Everything was done. And then you moved. And I just felt so unstable with what you were doing that I just went back to my bank. So that person was an S. An S does not like to be rushed. They need to be in a stable. You can read those cues really early because they want to make sure of everything of the process and make sure that they understand everything. We always say price is so much more important, but it's not always the most important thing. And to her, that stability was the most important. So she said it was a good learning for her.
I like that. Yeah, it's a great story. Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Now, a message about something that means a great deal to us and to everyone at A Better Way Mortgage Group. City Reach Care Society is our chosen charity partner for 2026. For over 20 years, City Reach has been serving thousands of vulnerable individuals, children, and families across Greater Vancouver. They call themselves the Hope Business. When you see what they do, you'll understand why. Through their Food for Families program, City Reach provides fresh, nutritious groceries to over 4,500 people every single month. They partner with 54 schools across Vancouver, Surrey, and the Tri-Cities to make sure kids have access to food, hygiene supplies, and the support they need to thrive. Every August, their Back to School Blast puts backpacks filled with school supplies into the hands of 1,000 children heading back to the classroom. Here's what makes your support go even further. Every single dollar donated to City Reach translates into $10 worth of food for families in need. You can learn more, donate, or sign up to volunteer at cityreach.org. That's CITYREACH.org. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.